Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for our webinar, Lifetime's webinar for hopeful adoptive parents. This is our Q&A session, and we are excited to hear your questions and answer those for you. My name is Kim King, and I'm one of the adoptive family coordinators here at Lifetime. I'm pleased to be co-hosting with another coordinator here at Lifetime, Libby Denniston, and we're excited to answer the questions that are on your minds. Before we get into any of the questions, and if you have some questions on your mind, go ahead and start typing those in already, and we will answer those as we begin the Q&A session. If you are new to Lifetime, you can always reach us by phone at 1-800-923-6784. You can also find us on Facebook and like our page, follow us there, and be plugged into just day-to-day little things that we share, encouragement, tips, also questions that we ask and want insight and feedback from our followers on Facebook. That is at facebook.com/open.adoption, facebook.com/open.adoption. If you actually have questions that you're not sure who to ask, but you want to email those questions and you don't have a coordinator at Lifetime yet, you can always email those to us at adopt@lifetimeadoption.com, adopt@lifetimeadoption.com. And of course, as we always say during these webinars, if you have not yet filled out the application on our website, it is a great time to do that. It's never too early to fill it out so we can start to understand more about what you're looking for and learn a little bit about you and let you know what we would recommend as your next steps. We can also, of course, consider you for our program and let you know if we'd be confident in pursuing your adoption for you and with you. And that free application is online at lifetimeadoption.com/apply. Now, we don't ever charge for our application. It is totally free to explore further, ask questions, get information, have us check and see if we can help you. Our founder, Marty Caldwell, has always said that she doesn't feel people should have to pay anything to find out if someone can actually help them. So we want you to take advantage of the opportunity of our free application online at lifetimeadoption.com/apply. If you fill it out this evening, then we will be able to get that processing starting first thing in the morning, and we typically have a response within 5 business days. So be sure you keep an eye on your phone and your email after you have submitted that application. At the end of the application, we do give you the opportunity to upload a photo, but you can always email us separately with your application photo, and it just needs to be the applicant's. If you're a single adoptive parent applying or a married couple, then, have that type of photo. If you are a family already parenting, you can include a family photo. We will not be sharing that with anybody. It's just for our own internal use as we start to get to know you. The majority of staff here, we all have online profiles on our about our staff page on lifetimeadoption.com to also give you the chance to get to know us a little better. So hopefully that helps you get an understanding of what you can expect from the application. And Libby, did you have anything to add or anything else to share at the moment regarding the application?
Well, Kim, you and we've chit-chatted about this a few times, but one of the things that I think is so great, especially when I know that not all adoption professionals offer a free application. A lot of them charge at least a couple hundred, and I always think, why would I want to pay money if I'm not sure that you'll accept me, number one, but also that I don't know that much about you. And so what happens is, and you'll hear on some of the questions tonight, that we give as much information as we can, but we still keep it generalized until we know what you're specifically looking for, and the application is how we learn that. And so for some of you, I know that you'll have questions, and we may say, it'll help if you apply, because then we will know what you're looking for, and we can better direct you. So it's not always about sort of a pass-fail application kind of thing. It's more like, how can we best help you, even if we aren't the best path for the long run?
Right. Yeah, it's a stepping stone to get pointed in the right direction. And since we do provide, one-on-one answers to questions and personalized feedback, if you should have any questions about your application, that is really helpful because it can be hard to get a call back from a busy agency that, doesn't have the staff to spend time with you if they're out doing home studies and so forth. You may wait a week or two for a call back. And at Lifetime, Marty wanted to set up a team that can meet the needs of all our clients, whether they're already with us as adoptive parents, an inquiring birth mom, or a birth mom planning adoption, or a birth mom who's already completed an adoption and is taking advantage of the 24/7 support we provide to birth moms, or an inquiring adoptive parent that's not sure where to take the first step. So we will always be able to assist you, and we typically respond to any of our correspondence within 1 to 2 business days.
Absolutely. And we had a couple people say, amen, I love that it doesn't, it doesn't obligate you to work with us.
Right.
Because that's the other
We're
thing
all getting
too.
to know each other.
Totally, exactly. And in adoption, a lot of you are coming from, working with doctors, and you've had a lot of sort of professional experience along this journey already. And it can feel really committal when someone says, well, please apply and we'll let you know if we can help you. But it doesn't obligate you to anything if you apply. It just, like Kim said, like we keep saying, it's exploratory. It's really about getting to know each other. Plus, I will say, Kim, one thing that I have seen since you and I have been doing more and more webinars over the last couple of years is we know everyone is at a different pace. So some people are just researching today, and that's awesome. But you may find that you attend webinars on and off for the next year before you feel ready to actually take a serious step to start an adoption, and that's okay. But you can apply today, and then at least you know, okay, what options are open to me when I'm ready, and talk about, what programs would be good for you, because Lifetime also offers a lot of different programs to meet the different needs. So, and that actually was a great question. We had, this is sort of a logistic question we just got in, Kim, that I don't think we've ever had on a webinar, but you might as well answer it. It just says, when making payments either to Lifetime or through the foundation, will we get a receipt via email or mail? What can families expect when they're starting with Lifetime?
When you make your
those documents for later, so that's a good question.
Your physical receipt of your payment will come to you in the mail with your welcome binder. If you don't have that or need it sooner than your welcome binder arrives in the mail, which should only take a few days, but if you need it sooner than that, just let us know. A PDF emailed over to you. I've been able to provide receipts for people within like 4 hours of them requesting it. So, like especially during tax season, it might be a family that completed their adoption and they're long gone from our program, but we get an email out of the blue like, hey, I need a receipt. I can't find it, and can you email it to me? I'm meeting with my tax person. And I'm like, okay, sure. And I just email the bookkeeper, and she sent it right over. So usually we're pretty quick about that. But you will receive a physical one, and if you need an emailed one, just request it. There was a question that popped up regarding Pure Charity. Pure Charity is an online crowdfunding website where you can go on and set up a profile. It's kind of like a GoFundMe, but it is like a nonprofit, and you can choose a partner on your Pure Charity. So that way when you are ready to request your funds, then your partner requests those funds and distributes them how they're needed. So for example, if you are working with Lifetime, then definitely when you set up Pure Charity, you'd use Lifetime as your partner. We are listed there under A Lifetime Foundation. So you have to put in A Lifetime Foundation to find us. This is a common question. So yes, we are on there, and that is purecharity.com, I believe. But let me go. I was just working on some information with some tips that we wanted to share with families to help make their Pure Charity profile stronger, because we saw a family just really do quite well on there. They got over 15,000 in their fundraiser on Pure Charity. So it is a way that is successful, and some of their donations were from people that they didn't even know firsthand. So I was putting together some tips, and that was just today. So your question comes at a time where this is also on my mind. But I will go and get this email and let's see what it
While
says.
you're looking at that, I was just going to tag on
purecharity.com is the site.com.
When
Yeah,
we were
purecharity.com.
When you were talking about the receipt, I was thinking, well, gosh, there's probably some people that think, why would you be so hot to trot to need a receipt in 4 hours? But there are a lot of different ways that people are funding their adoptions, including employer benefits, and sometimes or grants in the form of reimbursements. I know that sometimes people will find grants or different kinds of options available through their church or maybe a local charity, and they need to show, okay, we just applied these funds to this kind of fee, and it works this way, and here's the proof, so that you can get reimbursed from your budget. And so again, like Kim was talking about Pure Charity, there's just so many different ways that people are funding adoption these days. And I know the grand scheme of things, people, it's pretty common. Actually, you may have seen a post recently where we just said, here's some tips for how to handle when people ask you, well, why does adoption require fees? Why does it cost so much? And the reality is that you want to hire people that can cover the services your adoption is going to need. And so when you're looking at that, talk to professionals about, okay, well, what do I expect in the big picture, but also, what do my fees to you cover, so that you're clear. And when people talk to you about the process to adopt, that in your head you're not just feeling like, I don't know, I'm just doing what I can to get a child. Instead, you understand this is the process and what's required to bring my baby home. Because with adoption, there's so many more people involved. I mean, even if you're only adding this birth mother, she still needs, legal assistance to help her through the process, but also a lot of emotional assistance. And it's just different than when you are pregnant and bringing a child into your family biologically. There's still a lot of people involved in that. It's just more common that people sort of talk about that. Most people understand, oh, I need an OBGYN, and there's going to be nurses in it. Someone with the drugs to help me deliver and cover me while I'm in recovery, and just different things like that. Same things are happening with adoption. You're getting the support and the expertise you need to bring that baby home. But every program is different. And again, going back to where we started today, that's why you need to look at what do my goals, and what will that adoption require? What services do I need help with? And what are the wants versus the requirements based on where I live or the type of adoption I want. So you want to make sure that you're covering all your bases, and that's where those fees come into play. But if you're hearing this conversation and you're thinking, yeah, but that's where I get stuck, is I don't know how to move forward because I would love to adopt, I'm totally ready, but how do most people get their foot in the door? Write to Kim, ask Lifetime. They have so many resources available to help families on the front end get their funds together and get their budget in order so that adoption is possible. And I think some of my favorite stories, Kim, have been from families who just talked about, we didn't have a big savings. We didn't plan for ages. It was laid on our hearts, and the doors kept opening, and people wanted to help us. They gifted us. They set up things like Pure Charity with the crowdfunding, and did fundraisers. I even love hearing from some of Lifetime's families. It just seems like more and more of them are sharing. I don't think, maybe more of them are doing them, but I think more and more they're coming and saying, here's an idea, pass it along. But they're fundraising even while they're waiting to adopt so that they can build up that budget or reimburse the funds that they've already invested. So it is possible, but Kim and I will both tell you, as well as everyone at Lifetime, you also need to be wise about how you're investing your funds with adoption. And that's something that they can help you assess and discern, when you're going through the application process too.
One fundraiser that I've been hearing about a lot lately is really something we've talked about for years, but it seems like people are implementing it and getting great results, is to have a yard sale, not just of your own household items, but get donations. I mean, everyone has that pile of stuff where they're like, I'm going to have a yard sale, I'm going to have a yard sale. And it's like, well, when are you going to have the yard sale? Well, when I get the time to sit down and price everything, when the weather's nice, blah, 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 blah. But they might really be willing to volunteer to donate those items to you, that pile of stuff. Maybe they'd be just as glad to have it gone and have that space cleared out in their garage or wherever they've been piling up their stuff. And I've actually had a couple of families say they've got, by the time they got all the contributions of items to sell, while it was a lot of work, they had a lot of volunteers and they had a lot of donations, they were able to earn about $5,000. And part of that is because people understood why they were doing the yard sale, because I think they had like signs up or something, or it was like promoted to like that they were fundraising for their adoption, and people would come up with like an item that was only a few dollars, and they would give them a $10 bill and be like, keep it, we want to support your adoption. That's just so great, you know. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen when you start getting the word out, and most people know how to organize a yard sale, and there's no shortage of organizational tips online for that. Especially if you have a friend who's really organized, she's going to be really excited to help you with something like
if
this.
I
know I would be.
Host one, I would totally get Kim. Kim would be the
I'd be really excited.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm good at like putting the word out and getting people to drop stuff off, but I hate sorting through the stuff. But she would obviously eat it up. She'd say, this is the system, this is where we put this and that, I need a table over here, here's where the cash box will go. And the other
clothing racks,
signs. Exactly. I was going to say, one of the best tips that I would say if you're going to host an adoption fundraiser or yard sale of any kind, you can find relatively inexpensive services online to print a big vinyl banner. That way you can advertise about it early. So for instance, I was working with one of Lifetime's families who planned a yard sale way in advance. So they custom made this vinyl sign. It wasn't anything fancy. It was informational and easy to read, and that's what they needed. They tied it between a couple trees in their front yard so that all the people, all the traffic driving by for a few weeks or a couple weeks before the sale knew they're going to have a big sale here on this day, and it was in their minds already. And it talked about adoption fundraiser on it, so they also knew this is a great cause. I want to be part of that. So think ahead, so that you're not just putting out little like cardboard handwritten with the almost dry Sharpie that you keep in the utility storage. And you're like hoping that somebody can read it as they pass by. Plan ahead and make a little bit of signage, put the word out to people, maybe make little, you could make little business cards or real cheap flyers of some kind, maybe to even hand out at your church or somewhere that you have community. Just think about how you get the word out there, because a lot of times it's just that good old-fashioned way of spreading the word, and not finding, okay, I've got to take out all these Facebook ads and do all this, great planning. It's just really about making use of your circle and asking them to help you spread the word, but giving them a few tools so that there's people like me that like to still magnet things to my fridge so I remember that I want to do them. So just think about that. There's so many different ideas, and we had a great question that said, do you have a budget sheet for hopeful families like us so that we can use for planning? And I said, yes, you can email Kim, or you can email the coordinator that you're already talking to at Lifetime, and they can help you with that. Now, Kim, going back to Pure Charity, we had a question here that just said, how is Pure Charity different than GoFundMe, which is another crowdfunding?
I'm not too sure on the specifics of like percentage and how things are processed or how funds are released. I know that with Pure Charity, they have a special, like it's designated for like outreach projects, mission work, and adoption. So it's sort of more of a niche site for funding. So I would say just go through the purecharity.com website and get a feel for where you want to post your fundraiser. I know with the with either, it depends on what you, well, with GoFundMe, from what I understand, you either have to pay a fee off the top of your donations or agree to a percentage or something like that. With Pure Charity, I believe it is just a percentage, but I haven't checked lately to find out the percentage that they keep for processing. I mean, that's just standard anytime you do crowdfunding, but it's not always obvious to people who are doing it for the first time that, you know, like for every $100, Pure Charity is going to keep $3 or $5, you know, as a percentage of that. But most people who are contributing to your adoption are still going to want to contribute that way, even if the entire $100 isn't going to you. It's a lot easier for them to just contribute online versus like getting a check in the mail, you know. And then that way too, I believe they get a tax deduction through Pure Charity because it's a nonprofit that they're contributing to. So that may be, I don't know if GoFundMe is like that, but you would just need to look into the details, and I'm sure their details are always changing too, with like changing expenses in the marketplace and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So again, if you want to explore that more, you can write to adopt at lifetimeadoption.com and just request it, and we'll know what you're talking about and get you some information. But don't be discouraged. And some people will explore the options and then still take a little bit of time because they want to, you know, build up their budget so that they're not just counting on donations along the way, and that's fine too. But all of it makes it possible. And if you're like me, I will just say, Kim, I hate asking people for help, and I don't, especially if I need help in the money areas. But
yeah,
I know how blessed people have been when they actually start talking about, well, we want to adopt, we're getting the funds together, or, you know, and you just start sharing your heart. And maybe the person you're sharing it to doesn't hand you $5, but they talk to someone else who says, oh, you're kidding me. You know, I have just always had a heart for adoptive families. My brother was adopted, and, you know, I just came into some money. I would love to help them. You just never know who it's going to reach. So don't be afraid to talk about that. And when people even ask you for prayer requests, say, you know, not just please bring us a baby, but please bring us the means so that we can pursue this dream. Because time and time again, I think the number one thing that I always hear from families when they finally welcome their baby home is that they're so glad that they took that step. No matter how long or how much work it took to get there, they always look back and say, you know, this was definitely worth it, and I'm so glad that I did it. And in hindsight, it really wasn't that much. It's just on the front end when you're not really sure what to expect, it can be a little overwhelming, but step by step, you start to get clarity and the resources come into place. So, so don't be discouraged.
Yes, and
we had
a question. Go ahead.
I wanted to go over this one. Could you answer this one? Is it difficult for families with multiple, this says multiple biological children, but maybe we could even just say multiple children to adopt?
Right. Well, I think it depends on the family structure of your specific family as well as what you're open to in your adoption. So let's say you have a young baby at home already. Well, then that's going to make it a challenge for you to meet the needs that a birth mom has when she envisions the ideal family life for her baby. She may, after coming to this decision to place her baby with a family through adoption, she may have concerns if there's another baby already there. So our rule of thumb here at Lifetime is just generally the best thing to do is have any member of your household be over 1 year old. Now, if you already have biological children that are older, that's not really as much of a concern for birth moms. Let's say you have some that are in high school, middle school, college, or, just completely adults on their own. And maybe this isn't your first marriage and you want to parent a child together. Maybe your husband has children from prior that are adults, or vice versa. We have seen a great deal of success. So when someone says, can you adopt if you have multiple biological children, I just want to know more. And also, what do you mean by multiple? Like, how many? How many do you have?
2 or 12. Yeah.
Right. Or I'm thinking of several calls I've had over the years where they've had more than 20. Um, well, if you have 3 children, I think you are still in a zone where we would love to consider you. So we would want to see your application and see just how broad your preferences are. But I'll say that if the preferences are specific, it's going to make it really hard, and I don't know if the review committee would approve officially offering if the preferences are really specific. And that might go even for a family that has 0 children, but maybe they're a little older, so we want to see them create a balance with their broad preferences, such as being open on race, open on gender, maybe newborn up to a few months old, things like that. Maybe some minor correctable special needs, such as cleft palate, or minor correctable things are like if the baby, is born with a cleft palate, it's a corrective surgery, or a 3-year-old that's going to need speech therapy or something like that. Minor correctable types of things. But we will explore and discuss this with you further if you can just fill out your application online at lifetimeadoption.com/apply. This is a classic example of where we'd want to learn more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really varies. I was just talking with the coordinators last week about how I think in this day and age, birth mothers are not in fantasy land about blended families. They realize that a lot of people get to second marriages. They understand that maybe they themselves have never been married or even close to marriage, and so, or they were raised by in a blended family where there were step parents or their parents divorced and it was a split home kind of thing. So especially when it comes to if you're coming to adoption now on a second spouse and you want to raise a child together, a lot of birth moms are understanding the key is being honest with her so that she never questions, well, do the other kids matter to you as much? Is this child you'll raise together, or how do they fit in? Because on the step family note, that right there, even though it may not exactly be adoption like you're going to pursue it, it's still a model of, we have accepted children that weren't born to us, and we love them, and we embrace family as a whole, and it's not about where you started, but it's about our home and our lives together. And, if even if you're not a step family, like Kim was saying, it's good to allow us to explore that further with you. But I was going to add, Kim, when you were saying earlier, it's not necessarily that you can't adopt. It's that you want to find a program that's getting birth mothers looking for families like you so that you're not waiting excessively or unnecessarily. Because if Lifetime, for instance, says, right now we actually have quite a few families with, 2 or more kids that we're looking for families that have 0 children or 1 child in the home, because we need a mix of families to show these women so that they're not calling Lifetime, and Lifetime suddenly becomes known as, if you want adoptive parents who have 3 or more kids, call Lifetime. That we want to show her a variety of people waiting to adopt, because it's really up to her what she thinks is right. Now, I've worked with women who have said, I love that they have a pack of kids because my child will be the baby. They will be totally spoiled. They will get the attention of everyone. And then I've had other birth moms who say, I really want my child to be the only child for a while, to be that first child in the home, because, maybe they were the baby and they hated hand-me-downs or something like that. You never know where she's coming from, but that giving her that gift to choose what's right for her baby benefits you, because she's choosing you for the right reason, not because you were next on a list or because she felt like it, take it or leave it. So if you apply and Lifetime says, or anyone, you call an attorney or another agency and they say, we don't work with families who have more than this many children. Don't be discouraged. That doesn't mean it's the end of the line for you. It means you need to find the right place, the right help.
And we've all seen, adoptive parents who have large families. They've completed several adoptions, or they had several biological children and then added a few through adoption. We've all seen those families. So these adoptions are happening. So like Libby said, it's about finding the right path to have a realistic expectation that you're going to be successful. Find the right adoption professional to guide you, the right program. Be where those birth moms are looking for a family like yours. Or foster adoption or international adoption, although each county and each country will have their own requirements. And some of them are pretty hard to meet for some families, but you can find the right path. For everyone who has adoption on their heart, there is a path. Even I had a call from someone, he was just such a sweet man, and he said that he heard about the need for adoptive parents on a Focus on the Family Talk, and he wanted to call and say that they would like to, provide a home for a child. Well, he sounded a little older, so I said, well, how old are you? And he said he's 73. And we really don't have birth moms here at Lifetime requesting adoptive parents who are 73 to adopt their newborns, and almost all of our adoptions are newborns. So I recommended that he go explore things with his county through the foster system, because I know they have children of all ages, and they are not as strict on the age requirements, especially if you're willing to provide a stable home for a child that's a little older. And so that would meet his need that he felt on his heart after hearing that Focus on the Family Talk about adoption. So even for someone that's just calling out of the blue, he didn't say anything about infertility. He didn't say they ever struggled with having a child or anything. He just felt compelled and felt it on his heart, that they have love and a home to share, and he'd like to find out how to do that. So I just directed him to his county. Now, someone asked, is there an age restriction at Lifetime, something like that? We don't have an official age restriction, but there are some ages that are kind of obvious. Like, it was obvious for me to tell him, well, we may not be the right fit. But other ages may not be as obvious, especially when we get to see your application, and we get to see your application photo that hopefully is current, of course, so that we can really give you our best assessment as to whether or not we feel it's realistic you could adopt in a timely manner with us. Now, again, like I said before, if you have very specific preferences, then that's going to make it hard for anyone, not to mention if you're over 50 and have specific preferences. We've helped families that are in their early to mid-50s. It does help if one of the spouses is still in their 40s, or if both are 51, 52, 53 years old, but they have very open preferences, they live an active, healthy lifestyle, then that is something that you have going for you, and you can. These are the things that you can control. You can't control your age. That's time. It's going by whether we like it or not. Hopefully you will adopt sooner rather than later, but it's important to set realistic goals and expectations, such as with the preferences and with being active and healthy in your life. These are things that most people can control and do something about to be in the best position to get chosen by a birth mom.
Right, and we keep saying to be chosen by a birth mom, and that's not to say, oh gosh, I'm 45, I've got to go dye my hair and get Botox so that I look 33.
No.
It's about showing her, that I'm not a sedentary 45-year-old, that I am in modern times. Maybe, that you don't look like you've been caved up in your apartment since 1977. That you look like someone who contributes to the world and leads a healthy life. And by active, I don't mean to say, you go biking every day or you're at the gym for 40 hours a week or something like that. I mean to say that that you look like someone she could trust is going to get down on the floor and play with her 10-month-old, or throw a ball and do t-ball sports with a 3-year-old, things like that. So a lot of birth moms see value in a mature couple. And I will also say, because we've worked with these people too on the flip side, some of you may actually be young. You might be 29, 30, 32 years old, something like that. And you might be on the young spectrum of adoptive parents, but you might look older than some of the 45-year-olds. So you kind of have to like give the birth mom an opportunity to just get to know you and your life. And that's why when we're making profiles with you, because we walk you through that process and we help you bring out the best in yourself, that you're not putting in there, well, I just turned 45 and the clock is ticking. You know, you're letting her decide. You know, they look healthy and active, and I don't know how old they are, but they look older than me, and that's reassuring. So you're
Mhm.
not getting into your profile and saying, well, I was born in 1967. You know, you're not getting into that. She's going to decide. Now, does that mean that she won't have access to that later? Sure. She may ask you, how old are you? But
Mhm.
that's when she's already getting to know you, and chances are then it's more for curiosity, just sort of like, I love to know people's birthdays because for some reason that just paints a picture in my head to know them better. But in my head I'm not thinking, oh, dang, I can't be friends with a 46-year-old, you know. It's just, I'm just curious. I want to know how old you are. It's just part of your puzzle, part of your picture. So don't be intimidated if she asks you, but also you don't have
Mhm.
to if you're a 53-year-old, I mean, we're working with some right now, people that are um, in their early 50s, and us at Lifetime looked at each other and went, what? When we look, it's like we had to look at the file a few times because they don't look what you would think looks like some, 50-year-old grandma like we all had back in our day. Everyone, it's a different time. People
Mhm.
are um, people are staying younger longer these days.
Yes,
So
for sure. So
if you
thankful for
think you're
that.
weeding yourself out, you're funny. Um, don't weed yourself out. Let us help you. But like Kim said earlier, just be realistic too, because I will say that the one thing that breaks my heart is seeing people wait too long and then they're very anxious because they're coming to adoption at the end of a season when they were hoping maybe they'd already have kids in junior high or in high school, and they're feeling so desperate and anxious that it really plays negatively into the whole process for them, and they're thinking, I want to adopt before this milestone age, and they put so much pressure on themselves. Instead of letting the process work for it, they fight against it. So you want to also look at your own personal goals in your life and decide, is this the right time? Don't start adoption because you think, oh my gosh, it's going to be too late. Don't make a desperate decision. But at the same time, if you know you want to, but you just keep putting off starting, ask yourself why you keep putting off starting, and then maybe look at what is it going to take to start. Because
Mhm.
the one thing I usually hear, it's sort of, how do you say this, Kim? Like, at the same time, we will get families who have adopted who say, I wish I had started sooner because it was so much more amazing than I ever imagined. And then they'll still at the same time say, but we know that the wait and the journey was for this specific child.
Mhm. Yeah.
So trust
That
in
we
that.
wouldn't have our little girl or our specific little boy, if
Yeah.
things had gone any differently.
Hmm.
Mhm. So true.
Exactly. And that's why I had written down, and I'm not really sure how to speak to this because I think it's so personal, but if I could just validate for any of you who are on the fence right now and you're thinking, I would like to adopt, but I'm just not sure that we're ready to give up our pregnancy dream yet or the fertility
Mhm.
journey yet, that's okay. It's okay not to be ready yet. I will say if you walk in faith and you have been making good decisions up until this point, ask yourself realistic questions about timing and about how much you want to invest financially, how much of your emotions you want to continue investing in one path or the other. But it's also okay. If you're not sure yet that adoption is the right step to take, then take more time to decide, because the last thing you want to do is get into a process and then slam the brakes on and realize I haven't grieved or I haven't moved on or I haven't fully given and surrendered over that pregnancy dream yet. So I know that I got an email earlier this morning from one of the families who actually has adopted from us twice, and you've all heard their stories. Jake and Tanya have shared on a few webinars. Um, And they said they actually have a few friends who are thinking about adoption, but they're still struggling in that kind of that conversion from infertility to adoption. And some of them have already had children before, and they're trying to decide, is one enough? You know, I really thought I'd get pregnant again, but it's not happening. So all of you are coming from these very sensitive and tender backgrounds, and all I can say is that what we see is when people are truly ready, when their hearts are in it as much as their minds, it's it's going to pan into something beautiful, but you may not know what that looks like yet. And sometimes I think the hardest thing, Kim, is taking a leap of faith on something that you can't even put a frame around and picture what that looks like. So keep learning, keep attending webinars, keep researching, keep talking to people. Next week we're hosting an adoption story. It always helps to hear from other people who took that leap of faith and reached their baby. But nobody can tell you whether adoption is going to be the right choice for your family. That is the most personal decision. Just like for a birth mom, nobody can pressure you into that. So if you're one of those, Kim, I know we get these all the time, the people who say, oh, my mother's really honest to have another grandchild, but I just am not sure that we're ready to adopt, and the pregnancy's not helping, and not the whole family keeps saying, just adopt, just adopt. And it's okay to tell them, we're not there yet. You know, please calm down. The pressure does not help. You know, speak up for yourself and your emotional needs, so that you're not making decisions that are things that hold you back later. Because I know
I've also heard the flip side where their family is saying, are you really giving up on your dream of a biological child? Don't you want to get a second opinion? And meanwhile, the family's going, do you know what it feels like to go through infertility treatments? Like, we're at the point where this doesn't seem natural to us. This just can't be how our baby is meant to come to us. We're ready to adopt. We just want to be parents, you know. So I think that it's very confidence building when you both get to that point as a couple where you're like, we don't care how it happens. We just want to be parents, and adoption is a path we're ready for. You know, I think
absolutely.
That's so refreshing when you can get to that point.
I've had a couple of you chime in, and you reminded me that you may even find, as you pursue adoption, your heart may be totally in that, but you still dream about having a pregnancy, and that's okay too. You may also find that different levels of processing all that you've been through come out through the adoption journey, and I think that's probably one of the coolest things that I have seen with our adoptive couples in particular, is that they really come to find how strong their marriage is and how much they're there for each other through this whole process, and that in itself is such an asset to the birth mothers. Because they're trusting you to be a stable home and have a healthy relationship, and that may be the one thing that she just can't offer. Actually, Tuesday night I spoke with a woman, and she's in relationship with the baby's father, has been for the majority of 3 years. They've been a little on and off, but the first thing she started off saying was, I am still together with my baby's father, but I feel like at any time we'll probably break up. It's just not a positive relationship. And I asked her, you know, because I try and make sure she's safe, I said, you know, well, is he abusive? Has he been harmful or hurtful to you? And she said, no, it's just we argue a lot. We don't get along very well anymore. And she doesn't want that for her child. She wants her child in a home where there's not a lot of stress and drama happening all the time. So, so in those moments when you're thinking, how are we even going to get through this? Just trying to remember that when you do get through that, it's going to be such an asset to your marriage and to a birth mom down the road.
And I've also had so many families say that after several disappointments with, you know, pursuing pregnancy and everything, many times heartbreaking disappointments, that they just took some time off from the growing your family path. They didn't jump immediately into adoption, but they just took a little time off to rekindle with one another, whether that means actively spending time together or taking a mini vacation together, and then just coming from that little hiatus and now being ready and refreshed to start this new experience of adoption. You know, there are many people who choose to sort of take a little hiatus for a little while, and that's okay, because you do have to have a strong marriage to get through adoption, and infertility can be so stressful on a marriage.
Yeah. On the logistics side, Kim, we got a question that says, can you describe, let me see if I can make sense of this question. Can you describe the process for people in states that require a licensed agency instead of a facilitator? And yeah, we'll take it away. I don't know where I was going with that. That is
so yes. So when you apply, you will let us know what state you're in, and we will tell you whether or not we can assist you, you know, with your adoption. And if you are in a state that requires that you have to only work with an agency, we are already well aware of that, and we will be able, if we are able to offer to assist in your adoption, then in your paperwork you will clearly say that we are offering to assist. You will clearly see it stated that we are offering to assist you as a licensed child placing agency if you are in a state that only allows you to work with an agency. But, you know, there are many states out there that people are told they could only work with an agency and not a facilitator, and so they think that that's true, but we know it's not true. So just let us view your application, and then we'll take you down the right path that is going to be a safe and legal process for you to achieve your successful adoption. The only state currently that we cannot assist adoptive parents in is New York State, unfortunately. So that is the only state. We can help birth moms nationwide, and we can help adoptive parents in all other states, as long as everything matches up for us to, you know, actually be able to meet the needs that you have for your adoption, of course.
Perfect. So I will also say that we recently, on a different webinar, had a question about what if I live in a state that doesn't require an agency but birth mother does. Sometimes sometimes you may need to hire an agency just to do the legal, but that's different than hiring an agency to help you find a birth mother. So you know, we can kind of walk you through that too. There's all kinds of possibilities that could come with that question.
Right. There's so many variables. First, we need to get the match secured. A birth mom from anywhere in the U.S. can choose you if you're in our program. So then from there, we will direct you to the right legal, you know, referral. It might be an attorney, it might be 2 attorneys, or an agency to do your legal work, and we'll have you work with the right adoption coordinator within Lifetime, who is able to assist you and birth mom through that successful adoption. Adoptive parents always work on their adoption with the coordinator that's been helping that birth mom all along. I think you'll find that it's a very smooth process, especially since we are guiding you through it, and we're already well aware of what we can and can't do and who needs what and when.
Yeah. And that's what probably one of the top benefits of working at Lifetime is that we don't just hand you a situation and ask you to figure it out, that we're truly walking through it. And we've called some families recently that said, oh my gosh, I didn't think it would happen this soon. And sometimes I think that they're maybe one feeling a lack of confidence, thinking I haven't had time to just sort of marinate in this and get every single possible question answered. And we walk you through just the same as we do, because we know that if you've waited a whole year, you might forget things that you learned early on, and we don't expect you to hear about a birth mother and, you know, have it all dictated and memorized and know exactly how to handle things. That's what we're here to help you do.
Especially, you know, I know we were talking about a drop in the lap adoption that took place recently, and it's just Veronica, one of our coordinators, one of our senior coordinators, she just described it as an adrenaline rush. It's so true. Like, when we're presenting you with that birth mom, your mind is probably going 1,000 miles a minute. But the thing is that we're only presenting you with a birth mom who has met all her requirements, so we know it's a much more stable, adoption opportunity. We know all the preferences already match. We've already discussed your preferences, verified and re-verified probably multiple times your preferences. So you can count on that this is a birth mom that fits within what you've already decided ahead of time, you're totally fine with, and if you had a hesitation about that, you didn't say yes on a certain characteristic that you would feel is a deal breaker for you in your adoption. So when we come to you and we're able to share about a birth mom, we're going to share all her information. We don't expect you to remember every detail, but we are known for our step-by-step guidance. So we will walk you through it each step of the way. So from there, we'll probably just do the legal referral, schedule a time for you to talk with her, get the ball rolling, and we'll guide you through the next steps.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this question, and I was just going to answer it because I had it at the top of my head, Kim, but it just said, how many birth mothers is Lifetime typically working with at one time? And lately it seems like a lot, and I know that sounds so vague, but at any given time, working with about 300 women at a time, to my knowledge, and that may actually be a little greater because sometimes there are women that may only send us their first name and their email and just request very basic information, and so we don't know a lot about their specific situation that we pan out. And this number, it sort of remains constant. So for example, one of the worst things I could do is call our birth mother coordinators on a Monday morning with a zillion questions about different things, because what they're doing is sorting through all of the women that have either called or emailed requesting more information about Lifetime's families or about adoption in general or how to get started from Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So every weekend we're even getting women calling. We have 24-hour services, so whether a woman is just researching adoption or she wants to get a plan in place during pregnancy or at her child's birth, or whether she's already placed and just needs to talk to somebody, she can call and speak with someone at Lifetime who is familiar with her, who will listen compassionately and also give her accurate direction and information and resources. So the other question I know that tags along with how many birth mothers are you working with at a time is often how many matches do you have happening at any time? And I will say that number is harder to say because we can't always control when a birth mom's going to be ready to start a match. So it seems to kind of go in batches. We'll have a lot of births happen and then a lot of new matches happen. And none of those women are connected to each other, so I don't always know how the waves happen like that. But for example, at the end of last week, I remember talking with Linda, one of our coordinators, and she said, this week was a little bit quiet with starting matches. They were getting a lot of women sort of just inquiring, how do I learn more? But then by Friday afternoon, she had a few women who called that were actually due this week. So it's like everything can shift so quickly from I'm getting a lot of calls from women early in their pregnancy to, oh my gosh, I'm running like a mad woman because I've got to get these overnight packages out because these women are due in 5 days. So it's just always busy here. And we also look at applications and numbers of openings of families, families we can take in. I know, Kim, your team will say, if we're kind of in a season where maybe we're not getting any women calling and inquiring about adoption or asking for certain types of families, then we won't have as many openings for families because we really want it to be a healthy balance, not something that's out of balance.
And we'll be looking for the families that can meet, can fill openings that are left now. So, if we have a family that had 3 children that recently adopted, and you're a family with 3 children that would like to adopt, and your preferences fit the other things that we're looking at as far as who we're looking for that will have the best opportunities to be successful, then that, leaves an opening for us all to consider together. We literally get hundreds of applications on a monthly basis. We recently looked over the last several months and found that our numbers have increased of applications to about 400 to 500 a month, which is a lot. And we are working diligently to provide timely responses to each and every adoptive parent applicant. And I would say we generally hear from, well, are assisting somewhere between 300 and 400 birth moms at a time, although we might need to revisit and find out if that has shown an increase, because it sure seems so busy, and especially with last-minute adoptions too. Or even, I've noticed more and more this year, women who contact us and get the basic paperwork sent out to them with profiles, and then we don't hear from them until it's like their due date, and then it becomes a last minute. Like, I've just heard of so many of those and seen so many of those coming through. Just,
you're so right.
Yeah, so it seems so it's
Diane
always,
was actually saying that if any of you are familiar at Lifetime, you've probably heard Diane on other webinars, but she was actually just telling me, I wish sometimes these families would remember that even though it's last minute to them, whether you see a Facebook post asking for prayers because we just had a woman go into labor and she's getting an adoption together last minute, or if it's the actual family who's getting called because they were chosen for that. But at the same time, you know, she and her team have been working with that same birth mom for 3 months, following up, checking in on her, maybe getting counseling or some legal advice, or just giving her time to decide what she wants to do. And it's so encouraging to us and inspiring, because it reminds us, okay, no, that's why our program is in place the way it is, to have a whole support team just to these potential birth mothers, so that they know we're there for her, and that it's not about pressuring her. You're next on my list, and yes or no, are you in or are you out, kind of thing. It's really giving her the say.
Yes. There are so many good questions on here that have gone unanswered.
You would talk about the C question.
Oh, go ahead. Sure, yeah, one more. Let's go. Let's do this.
It says, our application was accepted, and our next step is to schedule our phone conference. Can you give us a rundown of what we can expect during that phone conference?
Okay, so during the phone conference, we'll want to gain an understanding of what has been happening so far. So you'll be able to share your story with us and, you know, help us understand where we're coming into the picture and what may have brought you here to Lifetime. I mean, I'm always happy that I give adoptive parents the opportunity to share that, especially when they say, well, you know, they might appear to be brand new to adoption in their application, but then come to find out they've already got a home study because they had a woman that they knew that was considering them, but then she chose to parent, so here they are left with this desire to adopt and a home study already done. Like, well, you won't know that unless you ask, what brought you here? What's been going on so far? You know, or even more details about their family history that have led them here to adoption, you know, such as the loss of a child that they were parenting, an older child perhaps, or maybe a child that was born with some severe medical problems and they're likely to have the same thing happen again, so they're pursuing adoption instead to grow their family. So you learn a lot when you give people the chance to share their story. Sometimes adoptive parents don't know quite where to start with their story, but whatever you feel comfortable, everyone kind of starts at a different place that they feel comfortable with. Some people will say, I'm brand new to adoption. This is our first time talking to anyone. That's where we're at, you know. But then from there, we're going to ask you all about your preferences to get a good idea of what you're open to and what you know for sure you're not going to be okay with in your adoption. We guide you through that. And from there, we share the next steps and what to expect and a little more information and everything. And once you've completed your phone conference, then we're able to let you know if we can offer to assist in your adoption. Sometimes, you know, there are extra steps for a family that maybe they should complete their home study first if they've had any type of a criminal conviction or something, but we will let you know that because we want to guide you through the steps that are going to be in your best interest. If we see any reasons why you would need to get a home study first, then we will guide you through that. Or if you have some home study questions, such as We've only been married for 2 months. Well, we can find out, does your state have a marriage length requirement of 1 year? So there's a lot that we can help you with from that point. And as far as the process from there, we actually do share all the information about the process with you prior to your phone conference taking place. All of that information is shared during the 2 audio programs that are only for our pre-approved lifetime families, that once your application is pre-approved and we'd like to schedule your phone conference, and you do indeed schedule your phone conference, then we send you those 2 audio programs to listen to as you prepare for your one-on-one time with us. So we go, Libby and I think it is, on the second audio, we go in detail about what to expect in a typical lifetime adoption, if there is a typical lifetime adoption.
Yeah, it does seem like typical just means individual.
Yeah.
Which is really the amazing thing about open adoption today, is that it's just, it's become such a personal process. I've really even seen it change just even in the last 5 years, but certainly in my whole time here with Lifetime, it's just amazing to see how personal and familiar and loving these open adoption relationships have become, because it becomes someone that you know and not just someone who signed a paper, We have some great questions that I'll hang on a little bit longer and try and give a few answers, but I do want to remind all of you that if you have leftover questions or you need more information, or if we hang up and you go, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask, you can always reach us. We are happy to answer questions for you one-on-one. And so just as Kim started off tonight, you can reach us at 1-800-923-6784. Or if you have a coordinator at Lifetime, you can always write to her. She's always glad to hear from you. But if you're not sure who she is, or if you forgot her email, you can write to adopt@lifetimeadoption.com, and we'd be happy to help you with anything we can. I was going to add earlier, and I just remembered now, Kim, when you were talking about Facebook, that Lifetime also has an Instagram account. So if you do Instagram and not Facebook, or you're really kind of into that, you can also follow us on Instagram.
Oh, good one. I need to update my little speech then, I guess. Everyone's probably nodding like, yeah, we hear you say the same thing every month. Welcome, and Facebook.
But I'm grateful for all of these great questions tonight, and there's even been some questions that have sparked me to think about some new resources that we could offer to help you while you get started or as you wait. So all of you help to make these webinars what they are, and we thank you for attending, but also we thank you for trusting us to be part of this community and to pan out this desire on your heart to see which way it leads. And we look forward, whether you're working with Lifetime or you're just exploring with Lifetime, we look forward to seeing where your story leads around the corner and way up ahead too. So Kim, thanks for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you, Libby, and thanks for preparing everything for us tonight and setting it all up for us.
Oh, my pleasure. Look, watch your emails, everyone. I'm sure that a lot of you already know, but we do have a great webinar coming up next week with an adopted mom sharing her story about getting through the wait, and her story has kind of a unique little twist that I think will be really helpful for families to keep in mind and stay flexible as they imagine how their adoption could go, and the awesome possibilities that can come with open adoption too. So come to Carrie's story on Tuesday, and we will meet with all of you again soon. Have a great night, everyone.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. Talk to you soon.